Imagine being the most powerful country in the world, with unmatched weapons, advanced technology, and a massive army, and still walking away without victory. That's what happened in the Vietnam War. But the real question is this: did America actually lose, or was this a war it could never win in the first place? After World War II, the world split into two sides. On one hand, the United States and its allies. On the other, the growing influence of communism led by the Soviet Union and China. This fear gave rise to something called the domino theory. The idea was simple: if one country fell to communism, others would follow. So when Vietnam was divided into North and South, the US stepped in to support the South, hoping to stop that chain reaction. The North, led by Ho Chi Minh, had a different goal. For them, this wasn't just about ideology, it was about independence. At first, America believed the war would be quick. They had the advantage in almost every way: better weapons, stronger military, more resources. But Vietnam wasn't a typical battlefield. There were no clear front lines, no obvious enemies. The Viet Cong blended in with civilians, farmers during the day, fighters at night. American soldiers couldn't tell who was a friend and who was a threat. Every village felt uncertain. Every encounter could turn deadly. It wasn't just a war of firepower, it was a war of confusion. And then there was the land itself. Vietnam's jungles were more than just terrain. They were part of the enemy. Thick forests hid entire networks of tunnels. Traps were everywhere. Ambushes came without warning. The Viet Cong knew the land like it was an extension of themselves. American troops, no matter how advanced, were fighting in unfamiliar ground. Even with helicopters, bombs, and napalm, the jungle kept resisting. It slowed everything down. It erased advantages. Meanwhile, North Vietnam wasn't trying to win quickly. They were willing to fight for as long as it took. Years, decades if needed. Losses didn't stop them, because for them, the war meant freedom. The United States, on the other hand, was fighting far from home, with growing pressure to end it. One side was driven by survival and identity, the other by strategy and containment. That difference mattered. Then came a moment that changed everything: the Tet Offensive. It was a massive, coordinated attack by North Vietnamese forces. Militarily, it was costly for them, but psychologically, it was a turning point. It showed that even after years of fighting, the enemy was still capable, still determined, still far from defeated. That realization hit hard, especially for the American public. Years later, the United States began to pull out. By 1975, Saigon had fallen, and Vietnam was unified under communist control. For America, it wasn't just the end of a war, it was the end of an idea that overwhelming power guarantees victory. So was the Vietnam War unwinnable? Maybe not because America lacked strength, but because the nature of the war itself made victory unclear. There were no simple targets, no clear finish line, and no easy way to measure success. It was a conflict shaped by belief, environment, and time, things that bombs and bullets alone couldn't defeat. Sometimes, the hardest wars aren't about who has more power. They're about understanding what kind of war you're really fighting. And in Vietnam, that question may have never had a clear answer.